Hey my friend, welcome to this video here where we're going to be talking about a life-changing subject which is going to help you understand the true meaning of life, why life exists, why is there life, why have I incarnated into a human body, why do I have hands and feet? Why do I experience all of these things all the time? Why do I have this whole life with my job and my relationship and my addictions and my sufferings and my joyful experiences? Why? Now, this is just going to be one very powerful perspective that you can look at this topic from. This is a philosophical topic that can be approached in many different angles. And this specific angle that we're going to be talking about today is looking at life as a big test. Now, a test for what? What are we being tested for? Can we fail the test? What happens if we fail? Do we get punished? Do we get sent to hell? So that's what we're going to be exploring today. This is something that ironically will actually help you very, very, very much in your practical everyday life. It will help you to be less attached to certain business situations when you're going to make a big deal or you're going to a job interview. It'll help you be less attached so that you can be grounded and authentic, so that you don't have to worry about failing the test, right? Because you realize that all of life is a test. So we're going to be helping you to zoom out here so that you have a better time in your sex life as well, in your relationships. And we're going to talk about sex actually a lot in this video because that's why, I've taken my shirt off. Soon, that won't be the only thing that comes up. No, I'm just kidding. But sex is a microcosm of the macrocosm of all of life. And this is going to be something very important for you to understand if you're a woman, or especially if you're a man as well. For all people, this is going to be important to understand the masculine and feminine energies of life. We're going to understand how these two energies relate to each other, how the feminine, which is the world, the forms, test the masculine, which is the awareness, the consciousness, to see if he is aware of the truth. If he is aware of his true nature and he can see through the forms and not cling to them and not be attached to losing the pleasurable ones and not be afraid of the painful ones, but to be grounded as truth, to be there, to be present, fully present, to be like a perfect container, to hold any form within it without moving or denying or rejecting. So this is very, very practical in your business, in all of your life, your sex life, your health, everything, okay? So what are we talking about here? This is something that was exactly what I was just saying about the masculine and the feminine energy. So let's just talk about, what does that mean that life is a test? So throughout our life, as you're living, you go through all sorts of trials and tribulations. You have difficult experiences of suffering where, like, for example, the other day I was eating frozen mangoes in my car with my girlfriend, and one of the frozen mangoes dropped out of my hand in between the car seat. Okay, and I went to go stick my hand in there to try to get this frozen mango out, but it started melting and it got slippery. So as I was trying to fish the mango out from in between the car seat, it somehow managed to lodge itself in between the rail of the seat. So I was like, and there's no way I could get it out. It was impossible. I was there for literally half an hour trying with a pen, trying to get this freaking mango out from in this like impossible position from underneath my car seat because I didn't want it to sit there and rot. It's gonna smell. There might be mold, right? So I was there for an hour. For not an hour, but for half an hour. I was planning to take my girlfriend out. We were gonna go for a nice, beautiful walk. But instead, there I was fishing the mango out of the car seat, and I was pissed off. So there's these situations like this all the time that happen every single day. And what these situations are doing is they're testing you. They're actually trying to remind you in a loving sort of way to help to coax you and to sort of prod you and poke you into remembering your true nature. So what does that mean, your true nature? This is something that I don't want to over-explain, but I also don't want to under-explain it as well. When I talk about your true nature, I'm talking about, are you aware of what phenomena, what life, what experiences actually are? Are you aware that what experiences actually are is this perpetual flux and flow? It's like a beautiful dance of light that takes all different shapes and forms, sometimes gorgeous, beautiful, the most pleasurable forms, like watching the sunset on the beach with your lover while you're eating a giant papaya, a fresh papaya. Like the most amazing sexual experience you've ever had. Life can be that, but life can also be the most hellish, terrible experience ever, like staying up till 6 in the morning because you're so addicted to playing video games that you're just like continually keep like playing like Call of Duty, for example, where you're literally sitting in your room in a video game running around in a war zone, in a virtual war zone, just like constantly being pumped with adrenaline. And nothing, you're just always scared for your life. And then you go to bed at 6 in the morning after the sun rises and the birds are chirping, and you have work the next day. And you're high and drunk, and you watched porn like 600 times. And now you have to go to your work shift and you're dead. You want to kill yourself. So life can be that as well. So what most of us do, being intelligent human beings, what most of us do, and when I say intelligent kind of facetiously, intelligent is sort of, I'm saying it tongue in cheek. Since we're so intelligent, we try to maximize the pleasurable experiences. How can I organize my life so that it's always sunsets on the beach with papaya? And so that it's never fishing the mango out from beneath the chair of the car, or it's never being hit or being beaten or beating someone else, which is just as painful. It's never arguing with my mom or arguing with, my dog runs away or my dog gets hit by a car. Like, how can we minimize the painful experiences and then maximize the pleasurable ones? And then we think, well, if we can only kind of get this percentage of pleasurable to painful, like we can do like 100% painful and then 100% pleasurable, and then only like maybe 0% painful. And then if we could like get to that, then we solved life. Everything's solved. If only I could like win the lottery so that I have all the money in the world so that I can build myself a perfectly comfortable pillow fort of distraction and comfort so that anything that's uncomfortable ever, I can just snap my fingers and I can have a servant come and take it out of my sight. or if there's my seat that I'm sitting on is a little bit hard and uncomfortable, I can hire someone to sew the most comfortable pillow for me made from Egyptian cotton and emu feathers. And then I can sit on this comfortable cushion so that it doesn't have to, I don't have to experience the hardness of the seat. The truth of reality that life is suffering sometimes and you can't avoid it. You can't get around it. It doesn't matter if you construct the most strategic pillow fort where you think ahead of time of all the things that could possibly cause you suffering and you pre-plan so that those things are accounted for so that you don't have to experience the rough edges of life. And then you plan your days so that it's just max pleasure all the time, no pain. But the problem with this kind of existence is that it never works. And actually, it makes you soft and it makes you weak. You become weak. It's like you're a spoiled child. You know, like a child who's born into extreme wealth. Like a billionaire child who's just given everything, 20 ponies and whatever phone they want. They have 26 iPhones or, they're just spoiled, right? These children, would you consider them to be like happy? The second the new iPhone comes out, if daddy doesn't buy it for me within 1 second, and there's that little bit of suffering, right? There's the shipping, right? It has to ship to my house, and the shipping is taking long. And all of a sudden, you're suffering. What the fuck, the new iPhone? That dad, pay more money, get it to be faster. I need it now. Throwing a temper tantrum. So in Buddhism, they have this idea of the 6 realms, okay? And there's the God realm, the demigod realm, the human realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realm. And it's like an analogy for like the manifestations of different kinds of suffering. There's like a spectrum of suffering. So all of us in our lives, we're trying to get to the God realm. The God realm represents like this billionaire lifestyle where everything is luxurious and there's no rough edges ever. The second I think of food, 10 servants come and bring me all the tastiest food, and it's so tasty that I don't even have to like lift my finger to go get it. They'll feed it to me. So it's like maximum pleasure. The problem with being in the God realm, and you think the God realm is like what you want, right? You think that's what you want, to have like a perfect life. What you don't realize is that people who actually live in the God realm, like for real, and all of us do at some point in our life, like you've been there before. It's a state of consciousness, a state of mind where everything's perfect, even if it was just for an hour, right? When you're on vacation or whatever, you've been there before. Everyone's been in that God realm before. The problem with the God realm is that it is so easy to plunge down, all the way down to the hell realm. It's almost like the higher you are, the harder you fall. So, like I was saying, the spoiled child throwing the temper tantrum that they don't get what they want. That's them plunging from the God realm all the way down to the hell realm. And all of this to say that even if you get the perfect life, you will still suffer. You will still be uncomfortable. There will still be bugs that find their way into the cracks of your house. There will still be people who don't like you. You'll still want things all the time. You'll still be craving things all the time, and you won't always be able to get what you crave. So this is where we get into, and by the way, what I'm saying, this is like Buddhism 101. I'm not making this up. This isn't Adam's philosophy. I'm teaching literally on the backs of like thousands of years of lineages of enlightened masters who taught me, who passed it down. I'm not just like this isn't Adam's life philosophy. This is like the nature of reality according to the awakened ones, the Buddhas, right? But it doesn't mean Buddhists. It could, the Hindus say the same thing, the Christians say the same thing, the Islams say the same thing. It's all connected. It's not like, Buddhism, is the only religion. It's just, it's a great religion, and it's very poignant the way they point out what's really happening. That's why I like it so much. So we've spoken about the first noble truth, which is the truth of suffering. Life is not comfortable, and it can't always be the way you want it to be. And if you think it can, then you will eventually get sick and die. So there's no avoiding old age. There's no avoiding death. This was the story of the Buddha when he was living in the opulent palace of the god realm. He was a prince. He was born. He could have anything he wants. Women, games, pleasure, food, anything he wants. At one point in his life, he came into contact with a sick person, an old person, and a dead person. These represent the three marks of existence, which the sick person well, first of all, let's start with the old person. That represents impermanence. So this is where everything's going to tie together, trust me, okay? It sounds like I'm rambling, but I'm not. Impermanence is represented by the old person, meaning that all things will eventually grow old. All things pass. You're not going to be young forever. Time is ticking. Time is ticking. Death is on your heels. Every step you take is one step closer to your grave. Are you preparing? Are you preparing for what comes? Which is another video we'll have to talk about. Are you living an awakened life? Are you using your time well on what matters? And that's the question. What is it that matters? Hold that in mind. We'll get to it. Number 2, he saw the sick person. The Buddha realized that life is almost sickening. It's unsatisfactory. No matter how much pleasure you get, even if you eat, a whole pizza, eventually you get sick. You can't be satisfied from a temporary experience because it's always going to end. There's always this quality of dissatisfactoriness, uncomfortableness in reality. You can't avoid it. You can't cover it in alcohol. You can't cover it in video games. You can't cover it in sex. You can't cover it in food. You can't cover it in YouTube videos, even my YouTube videos. But when certain things are being taught, that's good, right? I'm teaching you we're talking about the structure of existence, so it's good to learn about this. But, you can't watch a million cat videos and expect to be free from suffering. It won't happen. The unsatisfactoriness is baked into the nature of phenomena. And lastly, the third mark of all things is the dead person, which means no self. No self. Basically what it means is that things don't inherently exist on their own. Objects don't exist on their own. They always rely on some kind of cause and condition for them to exist. For example, a tree doesn't exist by itself. You have to look at it for it to exist. Quantum physics actually shows us this scientifically. So this is not, again, Adam's philosophy. This is physics. All things are interdependent. Objects don't exist on their own. They depend on other things to exist. So things don't have inherent existence, and also you don't have inherent existence. You aren't as solid and consistent as a self as you think you are. You think you're this person with this life that's important, with this body and these goals and these important things that you're doing, but there's actually, in truth, it's just like a collection of causes and conditions. There is no self there. So this is what the Buddha saw as well. And that is what caused him to leave. He left his opulent life and he went to go discover the solution to suffering, which we're going to talk about as we continue the story. So the first thing the Buddha tried was he tried to meditate extremely hard. So he went to go visit these yogis who lived in the forest. They were ascetics. And these yogis had a very extreme style of spirituality where they would sleep on beds of nails. They would not shower ever. They would let their nails grow until they were yellow and curly. They wouldn't cut their hair. They wouldn't brush their teeth. They would live on one raisin per day. That's all they would eat. They thought this was the way to get enlightened. So the Buddha didn't know any better. He was just kind of going along with what the yogis were saying. So he tried their practices. And for 7 long years, the Buddha tortured himself for the purpose of trying to attain enlightenment. He tried so hard, but still after 7 long years, his bones were showing because he wasn't eating. His nails were dirty. He smelled. He was foggy all the time. He couldn't even stay awake for longer than a second. He couldn't focus because he was malnourished. So throughout all this suffering, the Buddha was sitting underneath this tree and he was just so unhealthy. Then a boat passed by him on the river, and there was a fisherman in the boat who was fishing with his son. His son was playing the lute, which is like this string instrument, and the fisherman said, "Remember, son, don't tune it too tightly because the string will snap, but also don't tune it too loosely because otherwise it won't play." So in this moment, the Buddha had this gigantic realization where he realized the truth of reality. He realized in order to attain enlightenment, you can't be too tight on yourself, and try to fix everything and make it perfect, but you also can't be too loose where you just don't discipline yourself at all and you don't care and you just kind of let the flow of life sweep you by. Not too tight, not too loose, but when it's perfectly tuned, then you can follow the middle path to awakening. So this is what the Buddha did. He left his ascetic practice. He went to go take a shower. He cut his nails. He had a good meal. He nursed himself back to health. And then after a month, he was healthy again. He was strong. His skin was glowing. He had a kick in his step. Then, now that he took care of himself, he went to go sit under the Bodhi tree and he became enlightened. For 40 days, he sat there, and this is what happened. Ready? Now we're getting to the tests. So, when the Buddha sat underneath the Bodhi tree, there was many tests that life threw at him. The god of death in the Buddhist scripture was named Mara. He represents like the force that deceives you, to tricks you into thinking that the forms that are being shown actually have some substance to them and that you need to actually like really worry about them. You need to get off your center. You need to quit your meditation. You need to stand up and you need to go deal with that thing. So the first test, I don't have all the tests memorized. There were many of them, but one of the tests was like Mara was showing the wrathful ones. It was like a whole army with flaming arrows aimed to shoot at the Buddha. But the Buddha saw through this. He said, "Mara, I see your trick." And then he continued his practice, staying centered, paying attention to the rising and falling of the belly, seeing the truth of the nature of existence, paying attention to the 3 marks: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and no self, paying attention to these in all phenomena. So he saw through Mara's first test. Then there was another test. Mara decided to test the Buddha with pleasurable experiences. He created 48 women, or however many it was, that were sensual temptresses, that were doing a beautiful dance with flowing scarves, and they were speaking to the Buddha, trying to lure him in. But the Buddha again said, Mara, I see through your trick. So then Mara started getting angry, and then he threw everything he could at the Buddha. There was the many different tests that I don't know all of them, but there was like the foul ones, the disgusting ones, the wrathful ones, the the ones that would talk a lot. There's all sorts of ways. The mother-in-law test. All sorts of tests that Mara would throw at the Buddha. When the Buddha was able to see through all of them and to stay centered, that's when Mara was seen through. And the Buddha went beyond death, beyond life and death, into the state of perfect awakening, which is nirvana. But again, nirvana is not like another land that's like somewhere else. It's not like heaven in the sky. Nirvana is a state of consciousness. It's a state of awakening, a perfect, pure, clear realization of every single phenomena being nothing more than emptiness itself. All forms being empty, and all emptiness also being forms. So this goes back to the question, why does life exist? Because in a sense, life doesn't exist. What you're looking at right now, all of the forms in front of you, this is how emptiness looks. And this is confusing because you think that emptiness is like a black space or an empty cup or something like that, or a void or a blank. Emptiness actually looks like exactly what's right in front of your face. That's also how emptiness sounds. See, look, like even modern science literally says atoms are made of entirely empty space. And it's just a wave of vibrations. Yes, exactly. But don't get too like mental or conceptual or technical or rigorous about it. I want you to just stick to like what's actually in front of you. You need to actually look and see. Life is not what you think it is, which is what I talked about in my other video in detail that I made recently. I'll link it. So you can actually look at life as a test to see if you can remember what the true nature of all experience really is and not get sucked into the illusion, into the concepts. You have this terrible habitual tendency to just believe everything your mind tells you. Everything Mara tells you. You just believe it like a sucker. And when Mara is showing you the wrathful ones about to, shoot an arrow into your heart, you actually get scared and you forget that it's just an illusion. Or when Mara is tempting you with women or with food or whatever it is, you forget. You think it's real, so you go after it, you lust after it, you think it's going to satisfy you, but how can an illusion satisfy you? It's like you're going to the movie theater and they're showing you pictures of burgers, and you're going and trying to eat the screen, thinking that it's going to like give you lasting satisfaction, not realizing it's just projected light. It's just the projection of your own mind. All senses is what they are. Even the taste of a burger, if you actually taste it, I know it tastes good. But even what is taste? Taste is just a flicker of light on the screen of awareness. And again, this is like a dualistic analogy that I'm using. That's not actually how it works. There is no screen of awareness. There is no flickering light. They're one. The screen is the light. Life is one. There's no distinction between your awareness and then the phenomena on your awareness. Your awareness is the phenomena. So reality literally is the projection of your own mind. So I said we're going to talk about sex, so I promise you some sex talk. So, good job for staying to the end of the video. So, in sex, for example, as a man, and this is important for you to hear as a woman as well, one of the goals as the man is to not cling to a specific kind of experience, a specific sensation, a specific scenario or whatever it is, not to cling to that one scenario at all, to actually not be like, this is what I talked about in my video, don't cozy up to certain experiences. Don't cozy up to this one particular experience. Don't get lost in it. I know it's hard. This is something I've literally had to learn the hard way. So I'm speaking from experience as someone who's failed trillions of times. As delusional beings, we tend to cling to certain experiences. And then we get sad when the experience is taken away from us. So the woman, or the feminine, or, you know, whatever, the feminine in the sexual encounter, because there's always going to be a masculine and a feminine in a sexual encounter, otherwise there's no polarity. It doesn't necessarily have to be a man and a woman, but someone has to be giving it, and someone has to be receiving it. That's how life works. Okay, we can't just all be the same. We're not all equal in that sense. There's an asymmetric balance, the yin-yang of life. It's not just cut right down the middle. There's a yin, there's an interplay. Someone gives, someone receives. So as the masculine, it's your job to not have selfish clinging, needing a specific experience, taking, this attitude of taking. I need this one experience to satisfy me. Instead, your job is to see through that, see through the temptations of Mara. The same is true when the pleasurable experience is taken away from you, or when there's a painful experience, or when your girlfriend or your wife or, you know, whoever, your husband, whoever's the feminine, is being annoying, right? Because the world represents the feminine. The world likes to annoy you and poke you. Like when I was meditating, there was red ants biting me. Not too much, you know, once in a while they give me a little nip and it stings, right? I don't mind, because it's like good practice for me. Right? Now, in the beginning, when you first start your meditation practice, you don't want to like expose yourself to overly challenging situations, but as you get better, it's good to expose yourself to challenging situations to see if you can stay centered. And what is all of life other than just a challenging situation? That's what the video's about. Life is a test. So, can you use life as a test of your mindfulness, of your centered and presences? This is the goal of life, to awaken. The goal of life is not to make $1 million, because that you can't take that with you after you die. The goal of life is to use this rare, precious opportunity to go beyond life and death. To realize the truth now. Once you realize the truth, it doesn't go anywhere. The truth is always here. And the truth is satisfying. Not in the sense that like a cold beer is satisfying on a sunny day. In the sense that it is satisfying in all scenarios. It's regardless of what test is being thrown at you. There you are. This is Tantra. This is using life as an indestructible vehicle of permanent wakefulness. Can you use the gifts that have been given to you? Can you use the tests that have been given to you, the fear, the anger, the arguments, the craving, the depression, the bliss, the sex, the tasty food, the sunset. Can you use this to remember to not be swayed by the pleasure and not be swayed by the pain? And the way you do this is you got to practice. You got to practice. You got to practice. You got to practice this. You have to practice. You have to condition your mind in a way that it tames the animal of your mind. Your mind is like an untamed dog. It just runs off the leash. It pulls the leash all the time. This is you. Your whole life is just this. You're not even choosing where you want to go in your life, and you wonder why you can't get the results you want. It's because you're not even in control. It's the dog of your mind is just pulling you down the street. The dog chooses where it wants to go, and you follow because you haven't learned how to tame it. You haven't become a good dog trainer. So meditation is the practice of training your mind to be centered, to be present, to be clear. So this is something I've spoken about in other videos. Stay tuned for more videos like this because this is what my whole channel is about. Recently, I released a coaching program that is about being crystal clear about the purpose of life, which is not only about Buddhism, it's about awareness, it's about meditation, but it's also, you can use this practically to get clear about what do I really want in my life? What do I truly want? What does my heart and soul want in my life? Not just like, what does my mind want? Like, what do I think I want? What society told me I want? When you learn how to train your mind and stay centered and present, and when you learn how to self-reflect, then you can be clear about what you really want in your life. And you can create a clear plan how to get there. And you can stay consistent. You can take consistent action towards it because you've trained your mind to stay focused, staying on the ball, directing your attention to where you want it to go. That's how reality is created. So this is something I help you with in my brand new coaching program called the Crystal Clear Purpose Program. It's very affordable. You can click the link in the description, check it out, and join. Otherwise, yeah, stay tuned for more videos like this and subscribe. You know, we're doing our best to keep you motivated to attain awakening because that's the only thing that works here in this life. And no, I'm not awakened, okay? I'm a deluded being. Trust me, I'm unconscious all day and I make mistakes too. So don't just believe every word that comes out of my mouth. You need to, check for yourself, right? So there's certain books I've recommended in the past that I'm going to recommend in the future, practices you do for yourself, attain the Buddha mind for yourself, okay? Don't, worship me or don't worship anyone as the Buddha. Attain the Buddha mind for yourself, all right? That's what we're talking about here. Stay tuned for more videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.